into the other two speakers.
All right.
Thereafter, we will take some questions.
All right, I'm back in.
Okay, Mr. Dennison, we are going to ask you to open the forum with some brief remarks before we get into the two success stories, and then we will take some questions thereafter.
Okay, Bobby, I'm trying to find which screen I'm going to be putting up. I'm not seeing my screen anymore.
That would be your shared screen?
Yeah. I'm seeing your screen, but I'm not seeing the screen that I was on just now.
Oh.
You're live and we can see you. Just go ahead, please.
You can see me?
Yes, I can see
you.
Yeah,
but I want to put my presentation up, so I'm not seeing the screen that I'm supposed to do that to. All right, you can see that? Can you see my presentation?
No, we can only see you.
Oh my.
Mr. Dennison, let me
yes.
attempt to share the presentation for you.
Okay. Because in the share screen, I'm not seeing.
Okay, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yes, I'm seeing that.
Yes. All right, Mr. Dennison, I think you can go ahead.
I can go ahead?
Yeah,
that's what we were trying to avoid, Alexis.
That's quite okay.
Okay, I would just say change as I go through. Okay, I'm on slide 1, which represents the investment opportunities in the mining sector. All protocols observed. Good morning. So good morning, Mr. Moderator. Good morning, all. I'm very pleased to give this presentation to promote investment in the mining sector, which on this occasion will include a word on oil and gas. I wish to admit from the inception that it was unavoidable that I captured in anecdotal fashion where investment opportunities have been created as a result of the mining sector. I therefore seek your pardon, Mr. Moderator, for taking that latitude. Slide 2. This slide sets out the format for this presentation. I have 37 slides, a mouthful, but several are illustrative and for general information to be perused at your own leisure. Slide 3. So let me go directly to slide 4. Located on the eastern part of South America between Suriname to the east, Venezuela to the west, Brazil to the surrounding south, and the Atlantic Ocean to the north, geopolitically, Guyana has preserved strong relations with the Caribbean and states to the north, such as Canada, USA, and the United Kingdom, while fostering broader ties with southern neighbors, including those across the Atlantic. Slide 5. Guyana's profile is known to many. Economically, Guyana's macro drivers have been in natural resources and agriculture, with manufacturing and value-added associated industrial activities underrepresented. Slide 6. A major challenge to Guyana's development lies with the centralization of services on the coast and thinly established communications between the coast and the hinterland, where the variety of natural resources are located. But this creates its own diverse opportunities, of which there will be some brief mention later herein. Slide 7. Let me direct you now to the mining sector. Slide 8. Guyana is generally well known for its traditional and perhaps historical connection with the mining and production of gold and diamonds, bauxite, stone, and other quarryable materials, including sand and loam. While these are in themselves open for further growth and development, there are several other strategic commodities that could benefit from capital investments for exploration, exploitation, refining, and manufacturing development and export. To emphasize that point, I have included the next slides 9 through 12 with production trends for your convenient perusal afterwards. So can you please just progress me through 9 through 12? Suffice to say, despite COVID-19 and other circumstances, the sector held its own and is poised to surge for gold production. Diamonds were at a low point. Certain constraints are being addressed and improvements are expected. Stone is already trending upwards. Bauxite for the time being has an absent operator, but it remains very relevant and viable. If such depictions are shown again in a year's time, I anticipate there can be incremental growth shown for all commodities, and the advent of manganese production would be part of the record. Slide 13. So why invest in Guyana? They are the usual known facts which were mentioned in the session before. Tested and stable political climate, democratic, English-speaking, literate and ready labor force, sound institutions, legal system separate and independent of interference, etc. However, the following are just as significant. Slide 14. Geologically, some 36% of Guyana encompasses highly mineralized crusts, the greenstone belts, with the Mazaroni group in the south, the Cuyuni group centrally, and the Barama group to the north, all associated with which is gold and other minerals. Slide 15. Gold mining in Guyana has been at the artisanal and mechanized scale, offering declarations in a good year of approximately 500,000 ounces, with production arguably approximately 750,000 ounces or more. Inadequate exploration and inefficient recovery processes contribute to this situation. It is important to know, however, that in the past 30 years, Guyana has only managed 3 bona fide gold mining operations at a large scale, each of which with declarations above 150,000 ounces per year on a sustainable basis. This reality does not appear to be in line with the potential that is available. I therefore represent here that in the area of gold mining in Guyana, investment, which is alive, should be far more aggressive. Slide 16. With the advent of changing attitudes toward fossil fuels, alternatives are being pursued. Power cells are improving, and there are strategic elements, which such as scandium and lithium, that have become attractive for exploration and exploitation. In fact, the suite of rare earth elements also, including cerium, yttrium, uranium, and thorium, have become popular. Along with certain base metals such as copper and nickel within Guyana's mineralized zones, the prospects for these strategic but non-traditional minerals have been identified, and I am promoting here that these also can present for aggressive exploration. So slides 17 through 19 give an indication of where the general occurrences for the mineral sets that I've just mentioned occur. You can just progress through 19 and 20. So I'm at slide 20 now. The Guyana Geology and Mines Commission has been doing its part in opening the window for project prospects. In addition to vintage reports and data, the Geological Service Division of the GGMC has compiled reports on the geology, geochemistry, and structure of a more recent time frame, which covers some 7,000 square kilometers of northern Guyana, and this database is commercially accessible. Slide 21 gives an indication of what that database looks like for the different projects. Slide 22. Guyana has struggled with the exploitation and development of bauxite since its fortunes immediately post-war appeared to slowly evaporate. The bauxite deposits in Guyana are still considered of the best quality, but their exploitation have always been a challenge due to considerable overburden of sand. Value added has also been hindered, as in the case of manufacturing and industry development, by the limitations of energy or power, which can render products uncompetitive. With the potential for energy generation from Guyana's newfound hydrocarbon resources, downstream options for bauxite can become possible, from calcining and even aluminum to proppants. There are deposits still to develop, for example, the Tarculi of the Quarantine Group and the Essequibo Group deposits, and even remnant resources from along the Berbice River. Slide 23. Guyana is about to expand and grow with infrastructure development and in domestic construction. Production of stone, aggregate, and quarryable materials have to meet demands that could be as much as double the present level of production, which is about 600,000 tons per year. Notwithstanding, joining regional and international suppliers on a competitive basis with a superior product of granites and gabbros and white sands with silica content of 99% plus. Next slide. There are also the entire host of minerals of potential industrial economic value that have been languishing for inclusion within the industrial process, such as molybdenite, kaolinite, potash, amethyst, and others. The use of clays, including kaolinite, can be grown into a formidable industry for durable, cost-effective construction materials and ceramics. Semi-precious stones such as amethyst, jasper, and topaz are likewise available for what which could become initially for community empowerment as a sustainable venture involving financial partnerships through project enabling mechanisms, perhaps with the UN, and then to more direct fiscal adventurism in lapidary products. On a large scale, I would add dimension stone to that mix. Slide 25. This slide speaks to accessibility to the hinterland of which mostly have been referring. The road network is very limited. Riverine options are commonly used but are curtailed by rapids and falls. Seasonal patterns render of travel in the hinterland and a logistic headache. Air travel to the airstrip hubs that serve mining and forestry also serve ecotourism. Therefore, investment in transportation and communication is an open, virtually untouched area on several fronts. Tourism becomes, on the back of post-mining preparations for community survival. In a practical sense, mainstreaming reclamation works becomes a unique and innovative consequence to another high-value tourism product. Slide 26. Now a word on mining tenure. The manner in which the mining tenures of Guyana are structured allows for projects directly focused on regional exploration and at the large scale mining development and mineral exploitation. These would be the PGGS, the prospecting licenses, and mining licenses. Opportunities at a more junior or medium scale level, which are reserved for Guyanese, require partnerships and joint ventures. Slide 27. This slide depicts the principal aspects of scales of operations in the Guyana mining sector. Slide 28. In this presentation about investment opportunities in the mining sector, I have to point out that the sector has a robust mining legislation which is presently under review to make it more compatible with contemporary realities. The fiscal terms are quite competitive, with a royalty rate for gold at a large scale being on a tiered scale from 8% and 5%, depending on the price being equal to or above 1,000 US or less than 1,000 US. There are attractive concessions on equipment via the mechanism of an investment development agreement alongside the mining license. Slide 29. Notwithstanding the promotion of the sector for investment and development, the mining sector has to conform with certain environmental imperatives which speak to avoided deforestation, clean waterways, reclamation, and a plan at the national level to respond to the Minamata Convention, where alternatives to mercury must be embraced in the recovery process. There's also a strong commitment from the regulatory aspect for occupation safety and health. Slide 30. Finally, please let me speak briefly on oil and gas sector. By now, Guyana's development trajectory in oil and gas has been well commented on. This slide, which is slide 31, shows the disposition of the oil blocks in Guyana. All the blocks in yellow are licensed and the others are available. The deep water and ultra deep water frontiers, which is everything beyond and in the yellow, have been extraordinary. There has been and will no doubt continue to be, slide 32, opportunities for direct and indirect transactions specific to exploration. Next slide, please. And development project interests with licensed companies. The many facets of the industry provide other investments, example, within the maritime sector, where engineering and design, maintenance and security, transportation and communication, surveying, and the many technical and technological services that are centered on the sector. There are going to be an immediate term attention given to the shelfal areas that are currently available in the offshore and will become available. The shelfal areas should still be considered frontier, as on neither side of the border, Guyana or Suriname, has there been the kind of de-risking as has occurred in the deeper water environments. Slide 33. Associated industries of the oil and gas sector for investment include gas to power, petrochemicals, shore-based services, information technology modernization, banking, financing and investment services, specialized training. There are expected to be some nearer-term changes that will place in the public domain updated legislation for oil and gas, updated fiscal and economic regime, a modified specimen of the petroleum agreement, and along with the local content policy that is under consultation, the sector could open up for all the mentioned areas to become growth centers for economic diversification. That is something that hasn't been really said. We all hear about the Dutch course rather than thinking of the oil and gas sector as an opportunity for the economic diversification that a country like Ghana can put in. So I'm to conclude, slide 34. Actually, go to slide 35. In conclusion, the mining sector, including oil and gas, represents a host of investment opportunities through the cycle, being exploration, exploitation, development, and associated manufacturing and industry, establishing a viable value chain. Gold and diamond mining, platinum group elements, rare earth and base metals provide the incentive for the several tenures in mining to be pursued, and within which there is much room for capital investments either independently or through joint ventures. The growth trajectory for Guyana includes infrastructure and construction, which will create a demand for stone aggregates and sand. The mining sector is undergoing a review of the laws and regulations, and fiscal initiatives and incentives will be favorably considered to stimulate investment. Slide 36. For the oil and gas sector, there is much to offer within the associated manufacturing and industry arena. Gas to power and petrochemicals are just two streams. The gas to power can provide downstream and value added for bauxite, creating a window for mines development which has been elusive due to the capital input. As the government
Okay.
improves coastal hinterland communication with attempts to
Medyo
decentralize services,
masusot.
and with the GGMC
Oo,
conducting regional
gumagawa yan siya.
geological,
Hindi ako,
geochemistry, and structural surveys that
no,
provide
ulit
value-added
yung
data
documentation
that
ako.
becomes commercially accessible, there is much room for the mining
Yeah.
sector, including oil and gas, to substantially increase its potential with the capital and other resource investments that Guyana makes a ready destination for. And with that, I thank you for listening, and over to you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dennison. You have given us a brief history of the development of the mining industry in Guyana and a comprehensive overview of mining, as well as the new and emerging oil and gas industry of our economy. In moving in line with the format of your presentations from mining to oil and gas, we will now ask Mr. Rich Munson to give his overview, and then we will get into the next success story. So, Richard?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Gossai, for the introduction, and Commissioner, thanks for your very helpful overview. Very good to see all of you again, even at this distance. Soon hope to be in Georgetown and at Toraparo as soon as I can be. As the moderator has said, my name is Rich Munson. I have the pleasure of being the CEO of ETK, a Guyana corporation. ETK is the operating arm of a publicly traded company by the name of GoldX Mining Corp. And I'll give a little description of both of those entities. Let me bring up a brief presentation here. I will try to be as quick as I can. Again, ETK Inc., as Mr. Gossai said, 10.5 million ounce gold resource, and GoldX Mining Corp is the publicly traded company in Canada and the US. As a publicly traded company, I have to tell you we'll be making some forward-looking statements and advise you to do some due diligence if you're interested in the company. The Toraparo project is Guyana's largest gold resource. And as you see from this location map, we are deep in the interior of Guyana. 225 kilometers as the crow flies. Originally, when we started looking at this property in 1999, the only access to the property was by river. And that probably would be the subject of a separate presentation that could take a while and have a lot of interesting stories. Toraparo is the second largest undeveloped gold deposit in South America, held by a junior company. Junior company being not one of the major gold mining companies in the world, but you'll see here that we're in pretty good company in terms of the number of ounces. You see here that we talk about 7.3 million ounces. That's a measured and indicated category as opposed to total resource. I thought it might be useful, since we're talking about investing in Guyana, to have a short discussion about why stability, governmental stability, and continuity of policies are so important in the mining and other mineral resource sectors. It's, I guess, well known that the period of time between discovery of a major deposit and commencement of production has been getting longer and longer over the years. In the early 2000s, it was 10 years on average. Now it's 15 years plus. Additionally, mining is a very capital intensive industry. You see here kind of a list of the steps that we have taken since we took this property to the public market in 2009. One of the highlights is that we were able to get a mineral agreement with government. Other countries call it a fiscal stability agreement. We were able to get that done in 2011. Mr. Gossai was involved in that in a prior administration. And so Ashley Singh, who all of you met briefly with the president's presentation, was also instrumental in getting us that mineral agreement. We've done a lot of work on the project. We did a pre-feasibility study in 2013. We survived the gold market retrench during 2017. We added some additional resources, and we're right now working on bankable feasibility. We hope to begin construction in 2022 and production by the end of that magic 15-year average in 2024. As you can see, this is a lengthy process. It demands supportive government. And as you've heard other presenters say, we can attest from my years here that the government of Guyana has always been open for business. ETK, we set up this company in 1999, believe it or not. A partner of mine from the US mining sector and I started this operation in that year. We were a private company, self-financed. We came into the country, tried to stay low-key, under the radar. Our idea was to run a small operation to make sure that we could work with the government, we could develop a good workforce. And our experience was very good on both fronts. And it led us to make a decision in 2002 to construct a road from our water port on the Mazaruni River all the way to Toraparo. That was a fairly significant activity. We spent about $4 million US in building that road, but we got significant help from government. When we went to the then Prime Minister, Sam Hines, he spearheaded us getting a temporary reduction in the royalty from gold produced from the property. And government also agreed to assist us in maintaining this very key piece of infrastructure in Region 7 of Guyana. To get to Toraparo, you have to cross the Peruni River. We installed a ferry. We still operate that pontoon, as we call it. And all members of the public are able to use it without payment of tolls. So it's been a very good experience for us. During those years, we also developed multiple private sector joint ventures, just as you heard Shyam talk about. We were successful in our exploration activity. In 2008, we announced we had found 3 million ounces of gold. We had spent about 25 million of our own money at that point in time. So it was time to find other sources of financing. We went to the Canadian public market. As of today, we've spent about 150 million US on this project, and it is very well advanced, shovel ready, as they may say. And along the way, we've attracted two very significant partners, Wheaton Precious Metals and Grand Columbia Gold. The commissioner has talked a little bit about the wide open areas here and the potential for fantastic success in the exploration business. We can't say how much we agree with that. If you look at where we're at Toraparo and the Aurora operating mine to the northeast of us, you look to the west, you see Venezuela border, Las Cristinas, Las Brisas, 70 million ounces of gold there. You're not seeing any gold occurrences between us and Venezuela. And it's not because there isn't any gold, it's because there hasn't been any systematic exploration, as the commissioner referenced. So, but Guyana certainly is on the radar. You'll see a quote here at the bottom of this slide from the CEO of Barrick Gold, and he identifies the Guyana Shield as one of the most prospective in the world for large-scale gold discoveries. And there will be more. You really can't talk about Guyana unless you really focus on taking into account their low carbon development strategy. And you'll see a couple quotes here that I've taken from President Ali and Minister Singh, both quite recent quotes. Government is recommitted to this, and everyone needs to be thinking about reducing their carbon footprint. We need 35 megawatts of power to run the project at Toraparo. That's a lot of electricity. The original plan in 2008 was to do what Guyana Power and Light does, and that's burn heavy fuel oil. However, over the years, with the continued recognition of the need to reduce carbon footprints, et cetera, we've looked at a variety of alternative powers. Solar, we can probably get 48 megawatts from solar. Wind, as all the Guyanese here know, you don't get much wind once you get to the interior. So that's really not feasible. We've looked at LNG. While it's not a renewable fuel, it has great capacity, and certainly ideas such as a virtual pipeline, overseas, overland transport of LNG is a viable alternative. However, as we all know, Guyana means land of many waters, so we should be looking for a hydroelectric alternative. And we are very fortunate. We are located within 50 kilometers of tremendous opportunity to develop a run-of-river hydroelectric project. This is Kumarao Falls on the Currapoo River. We can generate the power we need to run Toraparo on a 9 to 10 months a year basis with just run-of-river, no dams, no impoundments. The waterfall will look exactly as it does in this picture, even if we're diverting some small portion of the flow upstream. And it has the potential to expand. It could be as big as 100 megawatts without an impoundment. And importantly, we won't be impinging on any indigenous people's community or sacred grounds. So in closing, I just tell you that in Guyana, we sit in the heart of the Guyana Shield. And the potential for not just precious metals, but as Commissioner said, rare earth, bauxite, sand, the silica sand is of an amazing quality in Guyana. And everyone who's been there can attest there's a lot of white sand. So with that, folks, I'll wrap up. And very pleased to have had the opportunity to present. My contact information is here, and happy to have any further discussions. And with that, Mr. Moderator, I will stop sharing and turn it back to you.
Thank you very much, Rich. That was a good overview of your project that you're currently undertaking. You have highlighted the potential of the project and also the next area of business development that you would like to see with this particular project. And I think we can all appreciate the fact that you stuck within the sustainability regime of the economy that you're working in. And that is, of course, Guyana moving towards a low carbon economy, even though we are on that trajectory of becoming energy secured and towards the aspect of industrialization. Thank you again. We will now go to our next presenter, success story on the oil and gas industry in particular. And Thuran, you will tell us a little bit about your developments in Guyana and from your perspective of being the country manager of Saipem. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Bobby. Good morning, everyone, to fellow panelists and everyone attending. Well, Saipem Guyana has been in operation in Guyana since 2018, and we started off with the project Liza 1, and then continued with LISA 2, and currently with pipe. Before I go into details, I'd like to take this moment and share a safety moment, that's our culture of doing any presentation or meeting, starting with a safety moment. I would like to share this safety moment that actually occurred in our facility in Georgetown. While we were doing some pipe loadouts and from the shore onto the PSV, one of the hooks gave way, resulting in two pipes dropping down onto the PSV, onto the loaded pipes. Now, in any situation, this is a very, very dangerous situation where multiple injuries or even fatality could have occurred. But I would like to share what went right and what went well. Now, the crane operator and the hooks, and including the crane, all were tested prior to any operation, including they were certified. And then the area of the zone for drop objects were cleared. There were barricading. All personnel were away from the fall area or the zone, in resulting no injury or any kind of activity. Now, this is because of the training and the LIHS program that we have implemented and the toolbox that we have implemented in the activities during the operation in our facility in Georgetown. Now that goes to show that we put things right and we train and we keep practicing the best practice, we could avoid accidents and also any serious or fatality injuries anywhere in the future. Now, thank you. Now, coming back to Saipem. Saipem is it's a company that has been established more than 60 years ago. We have somewhere around 120 nationalities working for us. We employ anywhere between 35,000 to 45,000 at any given time employees. We operate in 66 countries all over the world. We have 5 divisions, onshore, offshore, drilling, and onshore drilling, offshore activities, onshore activities, and we have got a R&D division called Excite, which does all the front-end engineering and details. We have about 60 vessels all over the world, and currently in Guyana, as you can see my backdrop, that's FDS2, which is a pipe laying vessel, a field development vessel, and we have also got another vessel, Saipem Constellation, working at the same time. Now, just to give you a brief milestone, we started our activities in Guyana in 2018. I arrived in 2018 and set up a small office where we worked diligently in developing a marine base. Upon developing this marine base, we did a partnership with a local company and developed our first offshore facility in Guyana, which is called JFL, John Fernandez Facility, and where we had our operations and also our project team based. Upon which we tried to recruit, and we managed to recruit the first batch of interns to start developing and training local incentives and local employees to be trained for our management facility. The vessel arrived in August 2018, and we started our first activity for LISA 1. We completed LISA 1 and then continued with LISA 2. Currently, the success story of LISA 1 is evident for everyone. As you all know, the first guest arrived on time, on schedule, and this is because of the activity carried by Saipem in offshore, laying the pipes and subsea structures with all the challenges that we faced at site. Now, the reason I would like to explain the success story of Saipem is a very simple concept. The pipes that are being used for this activity is first in the world. The composition and the way it is manufactured, and it is the first in the world, and it's been manufactured in Japan. When these pipes are manufactured, the pipes are transported to Veracruz or to Houston, Texas, where the first in the world kind of a coating, 5-layer coating is being coated, upon which the pipes are transported to Guyana, where it has been stored in our facility. Then these pipes are transported to offshore with one of the best PSVs available in the market with DB3 vessels. And it is being installed by FDS2, one of the world's best pipe installation vessels for deep water. And it's been connected in a 2-kilometer water depth condition. Now, this is the supply chain of this simple activity that has just taken for pipe installation. Now, during this whole supply chain, we don't mention anywhere Guyana. What we mention is world-class, world facility, world first in the world. But the Guyana point is just the storage area. Now, that is the critical point here, because without world-class support base and transport and assistance and crew manpower to deploy this equipment and material offshore on time, we would not be able to make the schedule. So that is the success story of Guyana. And we are developing further on by creating more activities, including fabrication in Guyana, in order to have a better facility that can facilitate all range of activities, including greenfield, brownfield, early stages, shallow water, any kind of activities that can be developed. So I would recommend anyone that is interested in Guyana to focus on all the activities that's related to oil and gas, and not only oil and gas, all this subsidiary of oil and gas, to focus on the development of infrastructure, focus on the development of equipment, training, facility, and equipment. So that's the success story that we have had so far, Bobby. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Turan. It's very good to hear, the business of oil and gas as it relates to the activity that you're doing. And of course, everyone has been paying attention to Sapiem since the beginning of activities here in Guyana, especially with the Liza Phase 1 development that has taken place. Okay, so we are very pleased to hear from your end how the industry has evolved. Of course, we know that things are moving rapidly towards the next phase of development, Liza Phase 2, and then into Payara. That's for the oil and gas sector. For the mining sector, of course, there are levels of operation that are being taken place here in country, from small to medium to large scale operation. We do have one particular area that is being mentioned here on the forum. So I will now open up to the presenters, Mr. Dennison, Rich, as well as Turan, if you would come in to answer any of the questions as I put them out here. Firstly, let's look at what has been said so far this morning. We've been paying attention to investment in Guyana and the investment climate in Guyana. As we've heard over the last few months, Guyana is ripe for investment. Guyana is open for investment. Guyana is now the new investment frontier, not only for oil and gas, but for the development of an entire economy. In Guyana, we like to say that we are an economy that is in transition, or we are an emerging economy, and that is because of all of the activities that is happening here. This is not a one commodity economy, as we have seen from this particular breakout session. We're talking about both mining and oil and gas, and for the mining, we're not just talking about coal mining or bauxite mining, but Guyana, of course, as the commissioner of the GGMC highlighted, there are a host of other resources that are available in Guyana, and there are different levels of activities that are taking place as it relates to the extraction and the development of those resources. For the oil and gas industry, we would all be very familiar with the fact that Guyana is moving into a gas to power project, something that will be happening over the next 4 years or so or less for the country. At the same time, by the time we get to 2024, we would see the next FPSO, aside from the one that is coming here later this year, to start up production in 2022. And then the country is moving in that direction to become energy secured, which is one of the main factors of our development that we must pay attention to. For many decades, we've heard of the issues of energy. We know what have been the drawbacks in moving our economy towards the next stage. So by that time, we will be having some level of security in our energy, and of course, moving the country into more enhanced manufacturing, value-added processing, and industrialization. We have seen from the reports presented for 2020 that the mining industry contributed for 2020, in fact, around 8.8 8% to the growth of our economy. And the oil and gas sector, the petroleum and the petroleum-related goods and services contributed close to 40% of Guyana's growth. That being said, it is very important that we know that the manner in which policies are being developed and mechanisms are being put in place is to ensure that, as the commissioner indicated, that we do not attract the Dutch disease here in Guyana because of our resource endowment and the abundancement of the resources, as well as the development that is taking place. And at the same time, Guyana put mechanism in place that can allow it to not have the effects of the resource course syndrome. Sometimes people get a bit confused between the two, but as an economist, of course, I like to highlight those differences. But the policies that are being put in place in this country, whether they are fiscal policies or monetary policies, or they are policies relating to local content development that is currently being undertaken by the ministry, or they are policies for investment coming into the country, are all being done in a manner to ensure that this economy over the next 3 to 10 years can grow in a very sustainable manner. And looking at the operations of the GGMC, the organization with oversight for the development of the mining industry in Guyana and still oil and gas, and then looking at the success stories of two very lucrative companies that have spent some time in country, one is a bit older than the other in country, we can see that the direction of making investment very lucrative for Guyana is at the forefront, especially with the Guyana Office for Investment and the initiatives taken from the highest level of office in the country. You've heard the president this morning to indicate that Guyana is looking forward to attract investment not only within this part of the world, but from various parts of the world in a manner that can partner with local companies to have partnerships and joint ventures and to enhance those levels of resource development. I will open up the session now with any question that is available to any of the presenters that they can respond to. And we will, of course, there is one question that being asked here, Mr. Dennison, on opportunities for deep sea mining. I will go out and say that no, we are not doing deep sea mining in offshore Guyana. We are doing deep water and ultra deep water exploration activities. But Mr. Dennison, you can provide any clarity to that question.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Moderator. I'm not quite sure what I mean by deep sea mining, but I do know that we've had a couple of proposals for mining within our offshore on the shelf for minerals, dredging the river bottoms and dredging just as we get to the mouth of the rivers for minerals, mainly gold at this point in time. We haven't regulations which speak to that, but it's certainly something novel that one might want to consider down the line. I don't see at this point in time there is any particular pressure point that requires us to go in that direction, because as I've mentioned and as Mr. Munson has pointed out, there is more than enough to do on land, on shore, and then in the zone that I've identified, the greenstone areas, that we don't find any real pressure to want to go into that direction at this point.
Thank you for that clarity there, Mr. Dennison. I'll now ask the two success stories that were presented specific questions, and then we'll come back to Mr. Dennison for any closing comments since there's no question there. Rich, with respect to your company and the manner in which you have seen the gold market in particular, global in place over the last decade. The question to you with respect to the enhancement and growth of your business, how do you cushion the effects of the volatility of gold prices on the world market? Today's price, of course, is much better than you were at 2011 or 2012 or thereabout. Of course, so we as a producer of gold, we are very happy to see that the price is where it is today. But as an investor, of course, when the price goes up, there are other factors that must play in the life of the mining field that you're developing. So the question to you is how, from a country's perspective that you're operating in, how do you cushion the effects of the volatility of the price of your commodity that you're trading in?
Well, fortunately, Bobby, we have been able, through the years of work on Toraparo, to develop alternative operating scenarios that would allow us, once we get into production, to weather any of the storms that might happen in terms of a retrenchment of the gold price. And a very key part of that planning and flexibility comes from our relationship with Wheaton Precious Metals. Wheaton, for those who don't know, is the largest streaming gold royalty company in the world by market cap, and they're a tremendous financial partner. They have helped us develop economic plans that keep Toraparo operating profitably, even if we were to see gold going back to, say, $1,000. So we're very fortunate in that respect. And the mineral agreement we have with government also gives us some flexibility to deal with price upsets. All of that was discussed, as you know, extensively when we were developing the mineral agreement. So the foundation is there to keep Toraparo running once we get it up and running. Feasibility is going to show a mine life of about 22, 23 years. So we'll produce a lot of gold and have an opportunity to do a lot more exploration, we hope.
Thank you, Nadarajah. Yes, I wanted you to highlight the mineral agreement, which cushions some conditions on the volatility of the price. So thank you for that. Turan, on your side of the spectrum of extractive industries, your business and what you're involved in, we have seen the change in dynamics of the global offshore industry, especially with the pandemic that hit us in 2020, the change in prices of commodities around the world, the shifting of capital from certain parts of the world to this part of the region, the opening of new areas of business along the coastline of Brazil and Suriname, which is next door. You're operating in Guyana. How do you see the development of the industries given the potential resources that is available for development of Guyana over the next 10 years, as well as Suriname next door, and Guyana competing for capital and for skills and technology to develop its resources?
Yeah, thank you, Bobby. Firstly, like previously explained to you, the normal scenario for an oil and gas operation would start from onshore, and where a new industry will develop around this onshore facility. New legislations and documentation regulatory requirement can be established, upon which a low to medium level skill, labor and technology will be developed for onshore activities. And then the activity would move on to shallow water, where low to medium level and medium to high level of technology and engineering facilities would be required, where we will have offshore facility, we will have port facility, fabrication, and also jackets and pipeline installation with the shallow water, and a shallow water vessel movement and marine industry will start to develop, and comes with the new legislation for maritime operations and etc. what is required for shallow water operation. Upon which, where we come to the high end of the technology, which is the deep, ultra deep water engineering and exploration. Now, Guyana is in the reverse version. They have started with the deep water, without all this history of activities and history of legislation, and history of knowledge and transfer of technology from the low to medium to high. We are exposed with this challenge in Guyana, having this high-end requirement of activities in Guyana. Now that gives us the opportunity to become a regional player. So I strongly believe that Guyana can be the regional player where the institution of engineering and facility, and also deep port facilities, whatever activities that we do in Guyana can be replicated in Suriname, in this region, and they can be the hub, because as we all know that the land is there, the facility is there, the will of the government is there to implement whatever is required to become a regional powerhouse for this sector. Not only this sector, for any other sector. It's just there. It's up to us to take it. Now, we have this, all of us are faced with this pandemic situation where we had to come up with all kind of solutions, trying to mitigate quarantine, vaccination, and also the travel requirement, the travel restrictions. So having to deal with that itself is a big challenge. And we are happy to say that in Guyana, we managed this situation very well with the support of the local authorities and also with our local team. So if we can delegate and complete such a challenging activity in this challenging time in a country where everybody knows the infrastructure is not fully developed, which shows great deal of accomplishment by the locals and also a team like Saipem. So I think everyone can replicate this. So it's just about your desire and how you look at it from your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Turan, for that explanation. Of course, you're right in terms of the manner in which Guyana's oil development has taken place, but we are looking for opportunities that will come to fruition within the closer to shore operation and even onshore. The development of the supply chain is very important to Guyana's development as well, as we've seen over the last 6 years, and where we're moving over the next 7 years specifically. I would like to thank the presenter, Mr. Newell Dennison, as well as the two success story, Rich and Turan, for sharing with us here this morning your development in Guyana, your encouragement to work in the investment climate in Guyana, and to continue to see more opportunities that are available, and of course to encourage where necessary other partners in the development of the process. So I know we've gone over our time just a little bit, but we would like to stop there for now. And we want to thank you for being part of our session this morning on the investment climate in Guyana, and to move forward in a country that is looking towards ensuring that its GDP continues to grow in double digits over the next 5 years, as was originally predicted by the IMF, that 2020 was supposed to be the jump-off year for Guyana, but the world had other plans for 2020. But we are in 2021, the year of the vaccine, and in 2022 we'll move even further ahead. So thank you all for sharing with us this morning, and we will end our session at this point.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. I'd just like to remind you all that Caribbean Export will be sending a survey, and I'd like to encourage you all to just provide us with some feedback. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to doing this some other time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis.
Ciao, ciao.
Great. Bye.
Bye. Well done, Bobby.